Look what just arrived, the Smith and Morty Tarot. There you go. Packed with coolness, humor, and fun. Smith and Morty Tarot. 78 card cartoon deck inspired by the traditional Rider-Waite Smith. So there we go. Let's go with it. This is, I gotta say, this is a lot more traditional than some of the other decks that have been created from there. So Magician even has the period at the end. I mean, this is really traditional. This is very traditional. I like it. You have the snake around the waist. You have the high priestess with the little moon, little crescent moon, and the traditional stuff there. We have the empress. Very cool indeed. Literally traditional. I kind of like it. I mean, I do kind of like it. I think it's kind of interesting. The emperor. The Hierophant. Yeah, I mean, like literally not a lot of changes. So, interesting indeed. Yeah, we have the snake around the tree. We have the angel. We have this is very on point for traditional, I gotta say. The chariot is also there, obviously with modifications to make it a little more Smith and Morty. Anyway, strength card, again. I mean, you know, this is literal Rider-Waite Smith. Hermit. Have a Wheel of Fortune. This is cool. This is cool. I think this would be excellent for a beginner in tarot. I think it would be excellent because you have all the same symbology. You have all of this stuff. It's sort of a little lighter tone, a little more fun and whatnot. I kind of like it. You even have the pillars are kind of cut off. Does seem to be a border issue here where we just have a little bit of a the trim. It looks like the card trim is a little too trimmed in some of these cards. So, all right, push Kitty and ask about that and see what's going on. See if that's going to be addressed in the formal version. Now, this is a prototype version. So if you're looking for the formality of it, or the formal version with all the things, you know, it's going to be in a nice box. It's going to have nice borders and whatnot. But this is just sort of a prototype version that I received. So I will ask about, you know, some of the cutting edge off, because I do know when they trim cards, they do lop quite a bit, like a startling amount off of the sides. I'm going to say that now. When they do the cards and they trim it at the printer, they lop off a large amount from the sides and from the top and bottom. It's not like a small amount. When they did mine, I was like, oh my God. So immediately had to rush and make a lot of changes as soon as possible because I was like, oh, wow, I did not know y'all trimmed that much off the edges. So yeah, there's that. If you ever make tarot cards, then by the way, that's something to consider. Yeah. Anyway, got the tower, got the star. I like it. I sort of like the redesign of some of the things. I kind of think it's kind of cool. The moon, again, you know, pretty standard with that. A little too much trim, it seems like maybe on the sides. A little too much trim with the flag and whatnot. I do like the expressions on everything. Very cool indeed. You got the Judgment card. We have the World, you know, pretty standard, kind of traditional and whatnot. You do see sort of the edge trim affecting some of the characters as well. So I assume that's going to be fixed. This is a prototype version. So I assume she's going to fix the edging to where everything isn't trimmed as much. Ace of Wands. We have the 2. There's not really much to say. I mean, there's not really much to say. It looks almost exactly like the standard Rider-Waite Smith. So I do like it. I even have the distance in between there from the characters. You have this distance here. You have the fighting going on. We have the expression on the horse is almost exactly the same. I think it's a good redo of the traditional art, in my opinion. It looks great. It looks very cool. I like the shading. I like sort of the gradient that is part of the 8. I like that. A little too much of a smirk maybe on that character. That is the Wounded Warrior and whatnot. We have a nice gradient, sort of a circular gradient here. on that card, with a Page of Wands, with the very traditional, the very traditional outfit with the lizards and whatnot. Same with the Knight and with the Queen. I love the expression on the cat. I think that's pretty cool indeed. I kind of like that. We have the King with the lizard, and the lizard symbology all over the place. Interesting gradient choice of colors on the Ace. I kind of like it. It's a little bit different, and I think it looks pretty interesting indeed. The 2, I like sort of the angry expression on the lion face. And then we have the 3, not as combined, not as close-knit. The 3 has sort of a reputation for being everybody's jumbled up into each other a little too much. You do kind of have that over here, but this person seems to be almost separate. That is something a little bit different that I kind of like. Then we have the little cloud. I like how minimalist the cloud is in this one. Very cool indeed. And then we have the disappointment. We have the family going on here. We have the, we have the 7 with the same symbols. We have the expression is kind of cool on the moon, kind of like that, with the rocks and what have you that we have to navigate through. The 9, pretty standard, and I like the little gradient from the 10. Interesting. The mouths are really kind of wild here, but looks pretty interesting. Page of Cups, talking to the fish, the communication. I love the fish's expression. Speaking of fish, the Knight of Cups has some fish as well. The horse expression is the most exact. Queen of Cups, the King of Cups, I like that expression. Ace of Swords, the hook in between that. The penetration of Cather, the cloud, is interesting indeed. The 2 of Swords, pretty standard. Same with the 3. Same with the 4. In fact, I think the symbology here is almost exactly the same. So this would be a great deck for beginners to kind of look at and to start with, because they're going to have pretty much the same things that you have in the standard Rider-Waite, but a little more, a little more light, a little more jovial, a little more fun with that. Same outfit on the clown. You do have, the restrictions here, the gradient across through there. The 9, I like that. I sort of like the gradient from here to there. Same thing, kind of a wild color palette that they've adopted in the 10. It's interesting indeed. Page, pretty standard pose there with the ground and whatnot. The Knight of Swords. We have the Queen of Swords and then the King of Swords. And the last one, Ace of Pentacles with the pathway leading out towards the mountains. Have a 2 with the juggling and the ships and whatnot. The 3 with the connection, the communication, the specifications there. Have a 4, sort of a grim expression on the 4. That's kind of interesting. Then we have the standard 5. This is sort of bandaged. This is not bandaged. I'm not sure what's going on there. It looked like just a sock or a weird colored shoe maybe. We have the 6, the 7, very exact. We have the 8, I like that. Sort of like at our wit's end, a bit at our wit's end there. The 9 and the 10. Page, that's interesting expressions, I gotta say. Page, Knight, pretty standard. You got the Queen and the King. It's cute. It's cute. I kind of like it. It's interesting. Smith and Morty Tarot. So, very strict almost to the original, I gotta say. Very kind of strict to the original art. Obviously redone with a little bit of, vector kind of looking thing. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Overall, it looks nice. Sort of a good reinterpretation. It's interesting, there's more of a use of gradients in this deck than there was in some of the other decks, like the Little Wizard or the Wonder World Tarot. It seems that the gradients were used pretty heavily in this, but not as much, in my opinion. Not as much in some of the other decks. So it seems that we are leaning in that direction. I kind of like it. It's interesting that we don't have gradients on everything. We just have gradients like on the boot, or in the Ten of Swords, we have gradients in the sky and whatnot. So I think that's kind of interesting where we went with that. Like, there's a lot of gradients here, but then you have other decks with like almost none, right? So a lot of gradient here with the sky, with the water and whatnot, a little bit of a gradient on the swords, and then you have like almost none here. Well, you have some in like the back, the bottom section, and then you have some here, but as far as like, you don't see gradients on some of the outfits and whatnot. So it just looks like it's mainly for maybe backgrounds and whatnot. You don't see it on the clouds, a lot of the landscape, you don't see it as well. Most of the character, you do see it on the character with the armor and whatnot. So it's an interesting use of gradients throughout the deck. I think it does bring a little bit more dynamic feel to it than some of the other cards and some of the other decks. Like for example, this one. You just don't see. It's more of a standard animation. You know what I'm saying? Standard animation scheme where you have just a solid with different colors, sort of to indicate the variance. But then here on this deck, we have a lot of gradients that are making up that thing. Overall, let me know what you think. I think it'd be a good beginner deck. I think it's kind of fun. It's kind of lighthearted. It's not gonna be too serious of a deck. I think it'd be great for kids as well. Anyway, let me know what you think about the Smith and Morty Tarot from Push Kitty. Again, this is a prototype deck. So the deck that you're actually going to get is going to be, you know, will have nice borders. It's going to be in a nice box, etc., etc. So anyway, let me know what you think about it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.